Good evening. Tonight, we peer into a world where science and sorcery are indistinguishable, where power is not inherited, but manufactured, and where one man discovers that his bloodline is less a gift than a curse. But beware, when one attempts to dismantle the machinery of tyranny, one may uncover older gears still turning beneath. Our tale is called The Alchemy of Madoopalus. The air on Madoopalus was thick with the scent of ozone and the faint hum of energy that seemed to vibrate through every particle. Above, the sky churned in swirls of green and violet, a living canvas of storms, a reminder that this world was not like the others. Here, science had climbed so far beyond the boundaries of common understanding that it seemed indistinguishable from sorcery. It was into this world that Zahirith Malvora was born, heir to the most feared family in living memory. The Malvora were rulers, feared not only for their iron grasp on power, but for their command of the planet's greatest secret, the heart. To the masses, they were wizards who bent reality itself, summoning dragons, commanding storms, conjuring miracles and nightmares alike. But Zahirith had grown up among their hidden laboratories, and he knew better. The dragons were gene-forged war beasts, their wings lined with bioengineered muscle. The spells were elaborate strings of code that shifted energy fields. And the Malvora themselves were not born so much as sculpted, their bloodlines fine-tuned by centuries of manipulation. Lord Aurelian Malvora, Zahirith's father, carried himself like a man carved from stone. His teachings were ruthless, his expectations merciless. Magic is not a gift, Zahirith, he often said. It is science, and science requires precision, discipline, and control. Zahirith listened, obeyed, and learned, yet, even in obedience, unease lingered. When Zahirith turned 16, his father took him below the estate, into the forbidden chambers where only Malvora blood was permitted. There, in a vault carved into the heart of the mountain, family's secret pulsed and breathed, the heart of Madoopalus. A crystal, immense and alive, floated in its chamber. Its surface shimmered with veins of shadowed light, each pulse resonating with a hum that settled into Zahirith's bones. "This is the source of all," Aurelian whispered, his stern voice almost reverent. "It is power, and one day it will be yours." But as Zahirith stared, he felt not pride, but dread. The heart's light seemed to probe him, searching, whispering. It was not a jewel, nor a machine. It was watching. That night, he dreamed of it. He saw chains woven into its surface, felt something vast and buried clawing at the edges of its prison. The heart was not a treasure, but a lock. The Malvora were not masters of it. They were its custodians, bound to keep it chained. When he woke, Zahirith knew a heart was not a legacy. It was a curse, and he would destroy it. But Zahirith could not act alone. The Malvora ruled with legions of beasts and weapons, with centuries of fear etched into the marrow of their subjects. If he was to strike at the heart, he needed allies, those who resisted his family's dominion. The resistance had been born from scholars and scientists whose work had been stolen, names erased from history. Among them was Varian Solm. Once a prodigy in the study of energy fields, Varian had been betrayed by Malvora. Zahirith's father had taken his research and displayed it as his own. Now, Varian commanded the resistance with reluctant authority, his fiery temper and sharp tongue keeping the fractured band of rebels together. When Zahirith entered their compound, Varian did not rise to greet him. He leaned against a console, eyes glinting with venom. "So, this is what desperation looks like," he said, "inviting a Malvora into our ranks? How poetic." Zahirith met his gaze. I am not my father. Varian laughed, bitter and sharp. You are his blood, his heir. You wear the name that ruined me. Do you think you can cleanse it by standing here? From the beginning, their rivalry was fire on stone, every word a strike, every silence a challenge, and when words weren't enough, Varian made his contempt known through sabotage. Schematics altered, diagnostics misaligned, intelligence mysteriously deleted. Always subtle, always personal. Tests designed to break Zahira's resolve without endangering the resistance itself. Zahirath endured. His anger sharpened into resolve, but the true test came not from Varian, nor even from the Malvora, from what lay beneath the heart. The excavation site was vast, carved into the bedrock around the heart's chamber. At first, it seemed only another dig into the old foundations of Malvora power. But then, the whispers began. Researchers reported feeling eyes on them in empty rooms. Some spoke of their hands passing through objects as if reality had slipped sideways. A few began to hear voices. When Zahirath and Varian entered the isolation tent, they found 4 researchers pale and shaking, their eyes wide and distant. Listens, one whispered. It waits. Another smiled with lips too thin and said, We are seen. The next day, one of them was gone. His cot shredded, his absence marked by long gouges in the ground and symbols written in blood no one could decipher. Varian's face was grim. We've gone too far. Zahira's jaw tightened. We can't turn back. The ruins groaned like a beast waking from slumber. The carvings in the walls, once faint, grew deeper overnight, bleeding darkness as though ink ran from their stone veins. Shadows twisted, detaching themselves from their owners, writhing with intent. One of the researchers, Edrin, fell screaming, his body folding into shapes that should not have been possible. His shadow lingered after he staggered to his feet. When he looked at them, his eyes were bottomless, and his shadow laughed. Then he opened his mouth, and a voice not his own spoke. You are seen. Pit below pulsed an answer. Varian grabbed Zahira's arm, his mask of fury cracking into fear. Run! They fled into an old command hub, barricaded the door behind them. In the flickering light of falling consoles, they uncovered Malvora archives buried deep. First logs were clinical, the notes of early engineers trying to harness the heart. Then came the erratic scrawls, abandoned sentences, desperation clawing through the words. The last entry was clear enough. Do not wake it. Do not listen. Do not speak its name. We were wrong. Before Zahirath could process, the consoles flickered, the files collapsing into static. Symbols rearranged themselves on screen, bleeding together into shapes that felt like they were watching back. Then, power failed. A knock sounded on the steel door. Once, twice, 3 times. Then a voice, low and everywhere at once. You were listening. The door did not break. It peeled apart, metal unwinding like paper. Darkness deeper than shadow seeped through. Fingers, too many, too long, slid across the threshold. The knocking began again, but this time it was inside their skulls. Zahirath nearly answered. Varian's hand seized his wrist, voice raw. Do not answer it! And together they fled. They stumbled into a dimly lit command room, expecting emptiness. Instead, 2 figures waited. Lord Aurelian Malvora and Dr. Everin DaCosta, the family's most trusted scientist. They stood still, too still, their eyes reflecting light that wasn't there. Zahira's throat closed. Father, what have you done? Aurelian's lips moved. The voice that emerged was not his. You did not close the door. The chamber shuddered. The heart pulsed, not as a prison, but as a beacon, and from underneath, the ancient presence stirred. The heart was shattered in the final struggle. The Malvora Empire fell with it, but the whispers did not cease. Zahirith lived on, hailed as betrayer, liberator, and cursed heir. He had broken his bloodline's chains, but the presence remained just outside of comprehension, silent now, but not gone. It would return. And so, dear viewers, the boy who sought to escape his family's corruption found himself its heir in a darker way. The Malvora believed they ruled through science. In truth, they were jailers, and their arrogance loosened the lock. Remember, sometimes it is not the tyrant you overthrow that should concern you, but what he was keeping chained. Until next time, sleep well if you can. Good night.